Hey, what's up guys? In this video, we're going to talk about how many heads you need for the anti-laser priority laser jamming system. The laser jammer supports anywhere from 1 to 5 heads, and so if you're looking at picking one of these up, you need to know how many heads you need to get for your vehicle. Is one head sufficient, or do you need more? Do you need all 5? So in this video, we're going to talk about how many heads you need for your car. Now, in order to figure this out, you're going to need to know 3 things. Number 1, you need to know what vehicle it is that we're trying to protect. A larger vehicle has a larger surface area, so we may need more heads to cover the whole thing. A smaller vehicle, maybe we can get away with fewer heads, right? Number 2, we need to know if we're trying to cover the front of the vehicle only or front and rear. If we want to cover the rear, we're going to need more heads. Finally, number 3, we need to talk about where it is that you're going to be driving. There's certain areas that have guns that are more difficult to jam, and those guns really benefit from having additional heads. So depending on where you're driving can make a difference on how many heads you need for your jamming system as well. So we're going to go ahead and cover all those 3. Now, all this stuff is covered in detail in my ALP setup guide. I'm going to post a link to this in the video description. This is kind of a comprehensive guide that helps get you everything you need to know and get completely set up with a new ALP system. So to know how many heads we need for our car, we need to first understand when a police officer is aiming his LiDAR gun and he's pointing it at our car, what are the targets that he's trying to hit? If we know what he's trying to aim at, we know what the areas are of our car that we need to protect, right? So on a car, there's going to be 3 main target areas. You've got the headlights, so you've got the passenger headlight and the driver's headlight. And then number 3, you've also got the center mass area, which includes your grille, as well as your front license plate if applicable. So these are the areas right here that he's going to be targeting with his LiDAR gun. These are the most reflective. They're the easiest to get a reflection back with his LiDAR gun. Modern guns can get reflections off pretty much anywhere on the car. It's not just these areas, but nonetheless, these are the areas they'll target because it's the easiest. And as long as we're setting up our jammers to protect these areas, they're going to protect the entire car as well. So that's what we're going to aim for. Now, here's a look at your standard dual head install that you'll see on most cars. Basically, the idea is we've got one head on either side of the grille, and they cover this kind of oval-shaped area. And you can see they're designed to give you coverage both for your headlights as well as some overlap here for the middle area. So you can see here on a standard-sized car, 2 heads is generally what you're going to need. Now, if you have a larger vehicle, whether it's a truck, an SUV, or even maybe like a wide sports car, you may need a 3rd head here in the center because, 2 heads are not going to give you sufficient coverage. So if you have a larger vehicle, 3 heads might be necessary. You can see an example here of an SUV. There's 1, 2, and 3, right? I'm going to cover in the next part of this video, I'm going to cover exactly where on your car those heads should go. This is just kind of giving you the idea of how many heads we're going to need, right? So this is a quick look at, some ideas here on the front. If you're looking at maybe protecting the rear of your vehicle, you may need 2 more heads. Here's kind of your standard rear, 1 on either side of the license plate covering your taillights and your rear plate, right? So you may need 2 more heads in the front. So basically size of the vehicle, if you've got a large vehicle like a truck, you may need 3 heads. Same thing for SUVs and some of the wider sports cars. If you want to cover the rear of your vehicle for full protection, I would recommend that as well. The rear sometimes can be a little bit tougher because you got to run the wires back to the rear, and there's the extra cost for buying the heads, and also the installation is more involved. Rear jammers are not necessarily needed all over the country because getting shot in the rear is not something that you'll see everywhere. However, it does happen kind of all over the place. Unfortunately, I don't have a good list as far as, what's in use where. I can tell you I've been shot in the rear, and I'm glad that I had, jammers in the rear, right?
Interference detection. Only true speed S. Behind.
So they're definitely useful, and if you're looking at getting full protection, I would definitely recommend it. There's some places, for example, up in Canada, where they actually shoot primarily in the rear, but most of the time what you'll see is generally the front is what is going to be your primary target, and the rear is kind of added protection, right? So you'll definitely want to get the front protected, and the rear is going to be extra stuff, but generally recommended. So nonetheless, if you're looking at for full protection, I would recommend front and rear protection. Now, I mentioned as far as there are some of these more challenging guns that are designed to defeat laser jammers. Some examples are going to be the Laser Ally by Digital Ally. You've got the Dragon Eye Compact, and there's also the Dragon Eye Speed LiDAR. What these guns all have in common is they're designed in such a way that they're trying to actively defeat laser jammers. Now, the ALP is one of the few LiDAR guns that can actually defeat, or LiDAR jammers that can defeat these laser guns. The other one that we've seen is doing a good job is the Stinger VIP. But when it comes to the ALP specifically, what we've found typically is having a third head up front really does help quite a bit against some of these guns. The ALP can jam these with 2 heads, but we found that adding a third head really does help performance just to, give you better coverage. So if you're seeing some of these guns in use in your area, you will want to add a third head just to give you maximum level of protection. Where are these guns in use? Well, I'm currently aware of them being used in 9 different states here in the U.S., including Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Missouri, Ohio, Tennessee, and Virginia. Does this mean that these are the only places where these guns are in use? No. What it means is these are the only states where I'm currently aware of them being in use. Are they potentially in use in places that I don't know about? Of course. Is it possible that these guns could start spreading to other states as well? Absolutely. That's kind of what we're seeing is, as companies are buying new equipment, they're getting new LiDAR guns, things are slowly starting to spread. So even if they're not in use in your area, it would be a good idea just to, add a third head up front just to give you that additional coverage. So that's definitely something that we're finding is adding the additional head can definitely help. So let's go ahead and talk now about how many heads you'll need for your vehicle. So anywhere from 1 to 5 heads. Let's start with 1 head. 1 head is generally going to be sufficient for a motorcycle, like a very, very tiny vehicle, and only protecting the front of the bike. Also, this is going to be helpful if you don't have any of these anti-jamming variable pulse rate guns in use in your area or where you drive. Number 2 is going to be kind of your standard go-to default number, right? So 2 heads is going to be there for any sort of small to mid-size cars to protect the front of your car only. I actually run 2 heads up front on the front of my Miata, and it tests great. It does a great job. 2 heads is also going to be good for a motorcycle if you want to protect both the front and the rear of the motorcycle. 1 up front, 1 in the rear. Additionally, if you're driving a motorcycle and you do have some of those variable pulse rate guns, those anti-jamming guns, if you have 2 heads up front, you will need those to defeat those LiDAR guns in particular. 1 will not be able to do it. So if you do encounter those guns, you will need 2 jammers up front. 3 heads. 3 heads are going to be needed if you've got a larger vehicle and you just need to cover the extra surface area. So if you've got kind of a mid to large size vehicle, such as a wide sports car, a truck, an SUV, and you want to cover just the front of the vehicle. In that situation, 3 heads will be great. Additionally, any vehicle that encounters those variable pulse rate anti-jamming guns, you'll want to go ahead and get 3 heads up front. Again, like I said, we found that 2 heads can jam them, but having the third one in the middle really does help. Again, if you're going to be doing 3 heads, it's really important that you have the heads plugged into the correct ports. Take a look at my my setup guide here. I go over all these little details that you need to know to get your jammer set up properly. Next, 4 heads. So 4 heads are going to be good for your kind of small to mid-sized vehicle if you want to cover the front and the rear. So this is actually what I run. I've got 2 heads in the front, and I have 2 heads in the rear. So those 2 combined, I've got front and rear protection in my smaller Miata. Now, if you've got a larger vehicle, you're going to want 3 heads up front, right? So 3 heads, 3 in the front, 2 in the back. Additionally, if you want protection against all the guns that are out there and you know that you're actively driving in one of these states where it's currently in use, I would definitely recommend upgrading to 5 heads total. 3 in the front, 2 in the back. Now, a quick note about the 3 heads. The ALP is designed to accept up to 3 in the front and up to 2 in the back. There are some places, for example, Edmonton, Canada, these guns are in use a lot, and they actually shoot primarily in the rear, not in the front. So for that reason, you may want to actually have 3 heads in the rear and maybe 2 up front. In that situation, you can actually do some tricks with the ALP to swap the front and rear voice packs. So if you get shot in the rear, because you have your jammers switched, it'll say that you're getting shot in the front, and it all works out. There are things that you can do if you need 3 heads in the rear. There's additional things that you can do with that, but primarily what you're going to want is 3 heads up front and 2 in the rear. That's going to be your standard full package, complete level of protection with 5 heads. Here in the States, it's primarily up in the front, like I said earlier, so that's the area that you're going to want the most level of protection. That's the most that I see. That's the most that almost everybody sees around the country. Again, they do shoot in the rear in some areas, and if that's the case, you'll definitely want to get the rear heads. 2 in the back is your standard go-to. Again, 1 is not going to give you full coverage against, on a car, a truck, anything like that. You will need 2 minimum. So there you go. There's a look at how many heads you need on your car to get the level of protection that you want. For more information now about where to actually install those heads specifically to make sure that they work, because this can be the difference between being able to jam these guns or not. Take a look at my next video. We go over the placement options and where the jammer should be placed on your vehicle. Additionally, you can also take a look at my setup guide on my website, and it covers everything, all the different things that you need to know in detail. So take a look at those, link in the video description, and I'll see you on the website or in the next video.